From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another awesome, amazing episode of the Practitioner Brief here on the CyberHub Podcast. I hope you had a good kickoff to Monday. All of our technical issues have been resolved. There was an issue with LinkedIn streaming. So for everyone tuning in on LinkedIn, that issue was resolved late last night. Thankfully, I got an alert this morning that it's solved, and I see it now. We are live, kicking, booting, and so life is good. I hope everyone is up for an awesome show today because we have a lot to talk about, including the Ukraine, a Chrome 0-day, and over 28,000 vulnerabilities just last year alone. What does that mean to cybersecurity practitioners? We'll get to all that on today's show in just a little bit. But before we do that, a shout out to KnowBe4 for their support on today's program. Make sure to check them out. Go to cyberhubpodcast.com. Find all the latest episodes, everything you could be looking for right there on cyberhubpodcast.com. Good morning to Eddie, Anthony. Good morning to everyone by LinkedIn User 1 and LinkedIn User 2. Scott and Keith, good cold morning. Yes, it's a bit chilly. A lot of really crazy weather. Good morning to David B as well. Thank you for being here, folks. So let's get right into our show today. Before we do that, though, how could we do a show without some espresso, without some coffee? My beautiful, amazing, lovely, hot, delicious, very energy-giving double espresso. Whatever you're drinking this morning, I hope you enjoy it as much as I love my espressos. Coffee cup cheers. So let's get right into the Ukraine. So Ukraine is on the verge of allegedly, the invasion by Russia is scheduled for tomorrow. That's allegedly. By now they're being targeted by a massive wave of hybrid warfare. According to the security service of the Ukraine, the country is the target of an ongoing wave of hybrid warfare aiming to instill anxiety and undermine Ukraine's society and confidence in the state's ability to defend its citizens. There's a lot of panic sowing, a lot of fake information, and to distort the real state of affairs, including targeting specific businesses and organizations, with a rumored of a lot of money exiting the financial system in the Ukraine over the last 24 to 48 hours. There's been over 40 or 50 private jets that have been leased out of the Ukraine by the wealthy who have left to numerous locations across Europe. And so they're seeing a lot of that. Well, what does that have to do to us as practitioners? Well, if you look at the Russian hybrid warfare map, what they're doing is there's over 9,907 reports of threats of destruction to facilities. The mine-laying operations have been targeting financial institutions, malls and shops, metro stations, airports, and dwellings and hotels. A lot of it has come through email, some of it by phone, and some of it by either person or traditional mail. So something to keep an eye on is as we see this escalate, we're seeing a new verge of how cybersecurity threats are being incorporated from a nation state level and also from a geopolitical level to organizations. Many foreign organizations that operate in the Ukraine are now looking at their businesses there and moving either out or trying to essentially get their operations out of the country as soon as humanly possible. And that has a direct impact on the business continuity of any practitioner. So cyber espionage continues to be a very, very big deal. And what we see in the Ukraine typically translates to what we see everywhere else within a specific time frame. So keep that in mind. The FBI issues a warning. Sorry, these are off center today. So the FBI issues a warning of a BlackByte ransomware attack on critical infrastructure. Yesterday, we reported that BlackByte ransomware is the perpetrator of the ransomware attack on my very San Francisco 49ers, who experienced the ransomware attack over the weekend. Not only did they lose the NFC Championship game and then had to watch Division Rivals LA Rams win a Super Bowl, they've also had to deal with a ransomware attack. Now the FBI issues a warning targeting 3 infrastructure sectors in the United States. BlackByte has been used in attacks against U.S. and foreign businesses, including critical infrastructures like government, finance, and food and agriculture, according to the FBI and the U.S. Secret Service in a joint advisory. Some victims discovered that the attackers exploited a known Exchange server vulnerability to gain initial access. Then they deployed tools that allowed them to move laterally on the network and also attempted to elevate privileges before stealing and encrypting data. The victim typically finds a ransomware in all directories where the files were encrypted. The note instructs the victim to access a website on the Tor network to pay a ransom in exchange for the decryption key. In some incidents, the files were only partially encrypted. In cases where decryption is not possible, some data recovery can occur, according to the FBI and Secret Service. So a new ransomware operator, if you're in finance, government, or food and agriculture, you're probably on their target list. So make sure you're checking everything that's going on in your environments and how their IOCs and TTPs. Google discovers a zero-day that now they've called for an active patch targeting Chrome. So on Monday, they announced 11 security patches for Chrome, including one for a vulnerability that's being exploited in the wild that's tracked as CVE 2022-0609. It's rated high severity, and the exploited vulnerability is described as the use after free issue and animation that was reported by Adam Weidman and Clement Lasange of Google's threat analysis group. Google is aware of the reports that there's an exploit for the CVE in the wild. While the company didn't provide information on the exploited zero-day, use after free bugs are typically exploited to achieve execution of arbitrary code on vulnerable systems. So Chrome, being a very, very popular browser, is always a target for threat actors. Make sure you get your Chrome updates done as soon as possible. A critical security flaw, folks, has been reported in Moxa and MXview's network management software. The technical details have been disclosed regarding a number of security vulnerabilities affecting Moxa's MXview-based network management system, some of which could be chained by unauthenticated adversaries to achieve remote code execution on unpatched servers. The 5 security weaknesses themselves could allow a remote unauthenticated attacker to execute code on the hosting machine with the highest privilege available. According to Noam Moshe, Moxa MXview is designed to configure, monitor, and diagnose network devices in industrial networks. The flaw, which affects versions 3.x to 3.2.2 of the network management software, were rectified in version 3.2.4 or higher, according to a disclosure processed in October of 2021. Several flaws here, 5 in total, and a patch is in place. So please make sure if you are using Moxie to get that patched. And finally, the state of cybersecurity. If you want to get anything better than this one, 28,000 vulnerabilities were disclosed in 2021. In fact, it's a record-breaking year where 28,695 flaws were disclosed last year, which represents almost a 5,000 increase of flaws from 2020 to 2021. Of the vulnerabilities disclosed in 2021, more than 4,100 are remotely exploitable, have a public exploit available, have also a patch or mitigation. By focusing on these security holes first, organization could reduce risk by 86%. On the other hand, to put the 4,100 number into context, the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog maintained by CISO, which tracks issues disclosed over the past decade, only contains 360. So while 4,100 were really active, CISO only looked at 360, less than 10%, as being something that they would be considered to be known exploits and vulnerabilities. The COVID-19 pandemic appeared to have some impact on vulnerability disclosure. When there is a significantly lower number of disclosures, risk-based security also noticed that disclosures slowed down in the first half of 2021, but picked back up in the second half of the year. As for products with the most vulnerabilities discovered in 2021, the top 10 include Linux distribution. Google's Pixel devices also made the top 10. Pixel's phones ranked 12 in 2022, so they moved up to the 5th place. You can see Ubuntu, Oracle Linux, Red Hat out of Enterprise Linux for Power, Linux for IBM Z Systems, Debian for Linux, and OpenSauce Leap, all part of that. One significant change in 2021 is that the top 10 does not include any version of Windows, which is surprising, but also lets you know the target is shifting as more and more companies go to Linux. So do the threat actors, and we're bound to see exploits come there. So keep that in mind. Folks, that's it for our show today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow right here at 9 a.m. with so much more. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, smash, and share today's episode. And till then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.